to show those idiots they don't know what full spectrum nutrition is. Today's going to be our first episode in what we're going to call the Quack Attack series. So hey, welcome to the first episode of the Quack Attack, where we break down all the times that nutrition, meditation, acupuncture, chiropractics, and even tree hugging has changed people's life for the better, but at one time or another was viewed as unscientific or quackery, like a duck.
That's right.
Okay? And today we're going to start with a little story about the power of nutrition. For example, people that have been diabetic for years, been on crazy amounts of statins, prescription drugs, to manage but not solve the problem. This lady was going through this for over 20 years. She reached the point where she was taking all kinds of statins, insulin, still not controlling the problem. 6 months later, on a nutrient program containing nutrients like chromium, vanadium, aspartic acid, and other supportive nutrients, and today she is medication free with normal insulin and blood sugar levels.
Ain't that nice?
And that is the definition of what we're going to call a quack attack.
It's a time when what is considered fringe or alternative has actually changed people's lives. And since this is the first episode, I want to make something rather clear, if I may. And that is, we don't think that all medicine is bad. We don't think that all drugs are bad.
No.
Some are life-saving.
Some are very good.
Here's the big divide. When it comes to infectious disease, when it comes to acute illness,
yes,
there is no better place to go than your doctor or emergency room.
Exactly.
However, when we talk about chronic degenerative disorders, diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, bursitis, prostate problems, then medicine isn't so miraculous as it is in some other cases. In fact, most of the time, what they do is they recommend things that are going to cover up the symptoms rather than solve them. And the big difference is that these chronic disorders are the result of years or decades of biochemical imbalance.
Yes.
Due to diet, genetics, there's a whole host of potential things that could be involved in that. And the only way that you're going to get the body to heal itself is to help it change its biochemistry. And that's what nutrients do. That's what relaxation and meditation and prayer techniques do. It helps to bring the stress level down. It helps to allow the body the space that it needs to rebalance its chemistry.
Yep.
And in the case of this lady, fortunately, it's changing now, but there are still a tremendous number of physicians and practitioners in mainstream medicine that still look at diabetes as a disease of excess blood sugar, which it is not. Never has been, never will be. It is a disorder of excess insulin production due to the ongoing failure of insulin receptor site function.
Yes.
And when you address insulin instead of blood sugar,
yeah,
that's when the body can begin to get well on its own. So this is the first time when alternative practices have changed somebody's life. And we call that the quack attack.
No, but I mean, we're not the only one. You're not the only one that has been screaming that from the top of the mountains for over 20 years. There's Jason Fung, the Diabetes Code, Gary Brecka, all these people that are coming out and really giving people the answers. We decided to kind of pile on that because it's already, basically all these people have stolen your life's work. And they're just using it.
Well, just because I was one of the early ones, it doesn't matter. But
to
I'm
me,
just happy that it's getting out there. And many more physicians are coming on board with the diabetes code, as Fung called it.
Yeah.
Even my own personal physician is a huge advocate of insulin control and not blood sugar control.
Yeah. So things are changing, and you really got to pay attention to it because there can be so much out there, so much misinformation, and that's why we kind of wanted to come up with the series of the Quack Attack, because it's funny how things change over time, and like Dr. Whiting always says, if you live long enough, you get proven right, and this is just more proof that the real answers are out there. Let's go to another one. Like next. Another woman who had been suffering from joint and connective tissues and inflammation for years. She had been taking 6 to 8, that word's
NSAIDs.
NSAIDs. Daily.
Yes.
And NSAIDs are what?
They are over-the-counter non-steroidal anti-inflammatory.
Okay, and so she was taking 6 to 8 NSAIDs daily. And with that dose, there are several potential side effects that are very bad to help, but they helped her discomfort. And she started taking a combination formula containing natural anti-inflammatory support such as turmeric, black pepper extract, MSM, boswellia extract, and other supportive nutrients. And now she uses no NSAIDs at all. Is that another example of the Quack Attack? I don't know a perfect one than that.
I think so. You see,
silent inflammation.
Silent inflammation is where it all starts.
Yeah.
And it is the most dangerous because you can't feel it.
Yeah.
So you go through your life all happy-go-lucky, nothing hurts, everything's great, and then all of a sudden you get a certain age and things start
everything
to hurt.
hurts.
Yeah. And then in 10 years, everything hurts. And it's simply because of uncontrolled, rampant internal inflammation, which is tearing down body tissues, destroying cartilage tissue between joints, causing further inflammation, causing further joint discomfort and loss of mobility, and the list just goes on and on and on. And when, again, this is a chronic degenerative condition, and medicine just doesn't get it when it comes to those particular problems. They just prescribe more painkillers and more drugs to keep the patient happy, basically, comfortable.
Yeah. And but they don't address the issue.
No, and when it eventually gets so bad, then they look at the patient and say, "Sorry, my dear, you need both knees replaced."
Yeah.
Or you need a shoulder replacement.
Well, and that's a great example of what you were going back to earlier, is that I just learned that I have gout, and prednisone,
a hereditary disorder.
Yeah, a hereditary disorder, and prednisone, the I guess that's called
that's a steroid.
Steroid. It worked in less than 5 days. So we love medicine.
Oh yeah, acute.
I love medicine.
Great.
I was in extreme pain.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have got that's a perfect example of how medicine is key in a lot of things.
Yeah, helps acute onset conditions, infectious conditions, emergency conditions. But when it comes to chronic degenerative disease, there
are more answers out there.
They still are clueless. I don't understand why.
Yep. And inflammation is a big thing. Phoenix Nutritionals, that is one of our top selling products, is the natural anti-inflammatory support. And that's something you've formulated and keep reformulating for the last 20 years.
Yep. Because I used to say all you need if you're reasonably healthy is a good full spectrum formula.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
But things have changed.
Well, I've changed my viewpoint. There's so much inflammatory sources that bombard us.
Yep.
There is the food, the junk food.
The environment.
There's the preservatives, the environment,
the air
we breathe, the water we drink, the stress we're constantly under.
The packaging we eat out of.
Yeah. Everything creates inflammation.
Yeah.
And the body just can't handle that level. It can't deal with it that fast.
Yeah.
And so that inflammatory situation builds up in the body and begins to erode and deteriorate internal tissues. And if you look at all chronic diseases, all joint conditions, arthritis, bursitis, heart disease.
Is gout arthritis?
It is a form of arthritis,
Okay.
yes. It's a very acute onset. That is a little bit different in the fact that it is a buildup of uric acid crystals in the joints.
Well, I can confirm it's painful.
Yeah, I know. Very much so. But all of these chronic conditions, diabetes, all the top things that affect people are all issues of imbalanced biochemistry.
Yeah.
And what balances the biochemistry? Two things. Nutrition, whether it comes from diet, which is unlikely these days, or supplementation, and stress management, which would be key nutrients, relaxation, meditation, prayer, etc. You mentioned at the outset tree hugging, and I love that because that's the ultimate quackery as far as mainstream goes. And yet I have talked to people, I know people personally, who have gone back to nature basically out of a desperate attempt to get well.
Yeah.
And whether they hugged a tree or not, they went out in nature and they spent time in nature with living plants and animals. And it made a profound difference in the quality of their life.
Yeah, and it wasn't a quack.
No, it works. So there you are, some lady who was suffering from joint pain, poisoning herself with excessive amounts of painkillers, and along comes someone who advised her how to address this problem naturally, and in a few months she was medication free. That, my friends, is another quack attack.
But seriously, there are still, the reason why we still do what we do is because there are people that think full spectrum nutrition is 6 or 7 vitamins, 2 minerals, and a couple amino acids. And the reason your work is so important because it's shown for over 20 years, 30 years, that full spectrum nutrition is about 136 nutrients.
It can make a profound difference
Yeah.
between just taking isolated nutrients or taking them all, because they work together like musicians in an orchestra.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you're going to a concert, you're going to listen to the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and half the members of the orchestra don't show up?
Yeah.
It doesn't work very well, does it?
And I think one of the biggest takeaways from what you have been teaching for over 20, 30 years is the micro and major trace minerals that are so important, that have been depleted from the soil for so long. I think that is why plant-based colloidal trace minerals are so important for people's diets these days.
Well, and that's why when I formulated the full spectrum liquid, which you guys call high vitality, the basis of that, instead of it being water, is a liquid trace mineral extraction.
Yeah.
So those trace minerals are already in that formula, and that way you don't have to worry about getting them.
Yep. And so next week we're going to do a new video about vegans and their deficiencies explained. We're going to go really in depth about how even the normal person, even the person that's not a vegan, still is probably going to want to watch this, because we're going to talk about all the main deficiencies and minor deficiencies that vegans have because of their restricted diet, and how to help them get all the nutrients they need without compromising their beliefs or the reasons why they're vegan or whatever. We're going to go, get right down to that. And
in the meantime, you better stay tuned and follow us, because Quack Attack will be back.
We will be back
with many more stories about how natural approaches change people's lives.
Thanks, everybody.